Masechet Shekalim Daf Beis Amud Aleph. Shekalim is the Masechet Shekalim that we have is part of really the Yerushalmi. It's in the Nusach of Yerushalmi. It's part of Talmud Yerushalmi. The Bavli does not have a Masechet Shekalim, and that's why, as part of the Shas, of learning Shas, we incorporate the Bavli. We incorporate the Yerushalmi into the Bavli. The reason that it's placed in the cycle where we learn it is in Seder Moyed. You would think that it would be more appropriate, but in Kodshim, it's dealing mostly with the Beis HaMikdash, with the Shekalim, the Masechet Shekel that was brought for the Korbanos, and it has details about the Beis HaMikdash. But since it deals with the cycles of the year, as we'll see, the Mishnah says that Be'echad Ba'adar Mashmin al Shekalim, as Samiri said, and therefore it's placed in the time of the seasons of Moyed, and as Rosh Hashanah says, is that since it's dealing with Bechad Ba'adar in proximity to Pesach, and therefore it comes connected to Maseches Psachim, which we just learned, and now it comes right after Maseches Psachim. Zok the Mishnah, Be'echad Ba'adar Mashmim al Shekalim v'al Kelayim. On the first day of Adar, Bezdin makes ha'achroza. They make an announcement, a proclamation on Shekalim that the people should bring the Masechet Shekel, they should bring it to the Beis HaMikdash. And also on Kelayim, that people should examine, they should check in their fields, if there's any Kelayim growing in their fields after the winter, the rainy season, the crops are starting to grow, etc. And they make an announcement that people have to be aware and remove any Kelayim that they might have in their fields. Over Chamishah Boy, and on the 15th of Adar, Karnas Megillah Krachen, we read the Megillah in the walled cities. The cities that have a wall, Mimais Yeshua Ben Nun, they read the Megillah on the 14th of Adar, the 15th. Now we mentioned this because we mentioned other things that happen on the 15th of Adar. Even though the primary day of Purim is on the 14th, but we're mentioning in the Mishnah other things on the 15th, so we mentioned that as well, that the cities are Mukafah read on the 15th of Adar. And they repair the roads and the streets. After the rainy season, the roads got ruined. People needed the roads for their regular traveling, etc., but also to be oil regular for Pesach. So they repaired the roads. And the mikvois were they accumulated the water from rainwater. And after the rainy season, it got ruined. They had to inspect it and to make sure that the mikvois were intact and they had the requisite minimum amount of water, a boim saw. And they did all the tzorach rabim. The Gemara will explain what this is referring to. Umetzayin as hagvoris, and they marked the graves. They had to mark the graves so people should know that if they can't go there. Kohanim to keep away, any people to keep away to make sure that they were Torah and were not Tomei after the rainy season. The lime that they used to mark the graves got washed out. They had to now again remark the graves, make sure that it was clear, and so people should know that there's a kever there and they would become Tomei. And they would inspect the fields for Kelayim. They would inspect the fields to make sure that there was no Kelayim in the fields, and if there was Kelayim, then they would take action. Zok the Gemara, V'lama be'echad ba'adar. Why did they make the hachroza on echad ba'adar? Kedei sheyavi Yisrael shekleim b'nasam, so that Bnei Yisrael they will bring the shekalim at the proper time. V'sitarim trumas halishka min hachadosh b'zmana. And that they would take the money from the truma in the proper time, be'echad b'nisan and be'echad nisan. Every year they had to take the money, the new money that was donated, that was brought. They had to take it to buy the korbanos for that year. The korbanos tzibur were brought from the shekalim that the people gave, and they had to use the new shekalim, the shekalim that they brought for that year, for the korbanos of that year. They couldn't use the old money, the money that was brought last year, for this year's korbanos. So they made the announcement be'echad be'adar, so the people should bring the money, and the money will be there in time, be'echad be'nisan, that they would now, in the beginning of Nisan, use the korbanos that were brought from the new donations. Ma Rabbi Shmuel bar Rabbi Yitzchak, he said, Truma salishka betchilosa. He said that the Truma of the Lishka comes from the first day of Nisan. That they did it was like the initial date. It was like betchilosa, like the very beginning. Dirshu, it says, Vayi b'chodesh harishon b'shana sheni tzbe'achad l'chodesh u'kama mishkan. It says on the first month and the second year, so Echad ben Nisan, on the second year that they were in the Midbar, they came out of Mitzrayim, Hu Kama Mishkan, the Mishkan was established. B'tani Allah, the Yom Shehu Kama Mishkan, by B'yayim, Truma. On the day that there was Hu Kama Mishkan, that was the day that they took the money, the Machzis HaShekel, that they withdrew that money and they used it for the Karbanos. So the time for the Trumas Lishka is Echad ben Nisan. They made the Hachroza on Echad ba'Adar so that the money would be there in time. Rotevi Rav Yoshe b'Shem Kahana, he said the following: Nerakan l'Chodesh. It says, as regarding the Musaf, the Korban Musaf, it says l'Chodesh for the months of the year, and Nemer l'Halon l'Chodesh, and it says concerning counting the months of the year. It says over there, it says the pasuk says this is the month, and it's referring to the month of Nisan, because it's referring to bringing the Korban Pesach. So it says over there, l'Chodesh. Just like that pasuk is referring to Nisan. So so as far as the Korbanos is concerned, also it's from Nisan. So therefore, the Trumas Halishka, the money that comes in Nishkolim, have to be brought from Nisan. Amar Yomi says, Shavak Rav Tevi Reish Damasis, Vamar Seifa. He said he left out the first part of the brisa. He only mentioned the end of the brisa, but without the first part of the brisa, you don't clearly understand what the limit is. Deloiken Kadatani. Isn't it so like it says in the brisa the following? It says, Zeis Oilas Chodesh B'Chodeshoy. This is the oil. But it says Oilas Chodesh B'Chodeshoy that you have to bring at the new month. So you might think that you bring new shkolim for every month. Every month must have new shkolim. Talmud Loima, and it says that it means for its month, for the months of the year. Which means that for 1 month your Tairim, you withdraw the funds for the whole year. You might think it's from 1 month for the whole year, but any month that you want. So therefore it says never kan l'chadashay and never la'alan l'chadashay. That's exertion. Ma l'chadashay never la'alan in mein element Nisan. Just like over there, the month that it's referring to. That when you start the cycle of the months, it starts with Nisan. You count from Nisan. Av l'chadashay never kan in mein element Nisan. Here also, the Chadshay means from Nisan, so therefore the new shkolim have to be brought for Nisan, and it's from there that you take the shkolim for the coming year's korbanos. Ma'u mashmiyan. So the Mishnah says, "Be'echad b'odar mashmiyan al hashkolim." What is this loshon of mashmiyan? What does that mean? Rav Huna Amar Machrizan. We make an announcement. We make a proclamation. We tell the people to bring. Now we make an announcement, achroza, to bring the shkolim. Kima the same, like we find in the following pasuk, Vayitna kol b'Yehuda Yerushalayim, that they issued a proclamation, Yehuda Yerushalayim, to bring the mas, to bring the tax that Moshe Rabbeinu was levied on them, and he told them to bring it, and therefore to bring the Machzis HaShekel, and it used that lashon Vayitna kol b'Yehuda Yerushalayim. He make an announcement. So therefore, we see this precedent that you make an announcement, you remind the people to bring the shkolim. Tamon Tanina, we learned in the Mishnah that in a Megillah, in Masechtas Megillah, Ein Bein Adar Harishon Adar Sheni, there's no difference between Adar Rishon and Sheni. When there is an Ibriyar, when Besin makes 2 months of Adar, when they make the second month, there's no difference between the two. The difference is Mikra Megillah and Matanos Lev Yonim, that he read the Megillah in the second month. You don't do the Kriyas Megillah in the first month. And when you give the Matanos Laniyim, you give those Matanos, it has to be another Sheni, not another Rishon. Rav Simon Rishem Rav Yishu ben Levi, he said, Av Shemua Shimu Shkolim Ukalayim B'neim. Also, what we learned in our Mishnah regarding the din of making the Achroza for the Shkolim and also for Kelayim, it's like in Adar Sheni and not Adar Rishon. Rav Chelva, Rav Huna, Rav B'Shem, Arachia, Rabba, they said, Akol Yotzim Barabasar. They said that everybody can yotze the mitzvah of Kriyas Megillah on the 14th. Meaning that even if somebody is in a walled city, even if he's in a city that's Mokav Chaima, Yomi Masechet ben Nun, if he heard the Megillah on the 14th, and therefore he was already yotze, and even though his Zman Kriyas the 15th, is the next day, but if he heard it on the 14th, he's Yotze. Shehu Zman Kriyos, that's the main time of reading the Megillah. Amar of Yosef V'Yeyos was, and he said that Rav Yeshua ben Levi was correct. Klum Amru Mashmin al Shkolim. Why did they say, the Rabbanan say, that you make an announcement on the Shkolim, like they should use Israel Shkeim by Nosam? Why do we say, so regarding this din of the achroza for the proclamation of Shkolim, that we do it on Adar Sheni, not on Adar Rishon? Why did the Rabbanan say that we make an announcement, a proclamation? What's the whole purpose of it? So that people should bring the Shkolim in the right time. So isn't it like Yidei Shavi Yisrael Shekalim B'Nosam in the proper time? Im At Amar B'Adar Rishon. Now, if you're going to tell me, if you're going to say that they make the achroza on Adar Rishon, there's still 60 days left to the year, so it's too early. By the time that it comes to Rosh Chodesh Nisan, then when the time's to bring it on the right time, people forget. If you make the announcement too early, it's counterproductive. So therefore, it must be Badar Sheni. And Klum Amr Yotzim Afik Kelayim. And why did they say that we go inspect the fields on the 15th of Adar? Why did they go on the 15th? Because that's when you can recognize, you can see if there is Kalayim. So if you go, Imata Amr At Omar B'Adar Rishon, if you're going to say that they inspect an Adar Rishon, then Dakikin, the plants are still too small. They won't be able to recognize the Kalayim. So there's no point to go on Adar Rishon. It must be B'Adar Sheni. Rav Chizkiah Shol, he asked me, well, if that's the case, that you're saying that it's on a practical basis that we make the announcement, the proclamation for Shkolim and Adar Rishon and Adar Sheni, because so they should bring him at the right time. If that's the case, Me'ata, you should say, B'nei Bavel, Mashmin al Shkolim, Rosh Hashanah, Bavel, who live very far away, it takes time for them to bring the Shkolim, then we should adjust the date, and we should say that the announcement should be made at the beginning of the winter. In order that the people in Bava who live so far away should bring the Shkolim at the right time, and that they'll be able to withdraw the money, the funds from the Lishka at the proper time. He said, he says, no. We learned that they withdraw the funds from the Lishka, from the chamber where they put all the money. They took out the money 3 times. They did it at separate intervals, 3 different intervals. When is that? Before Pesach, 15 days before Pesach. Before Atzeres, 15 days before Shuas. Before Chag, and 15 days before Sukkot. So therefore he said, Omer Le, Yemar, should it not say that Ilon de Krivin before Pesach, Ilon de Chaykim before Atzeres, Ilon de Chaykim min hain before Chag. So shouldn't we say that the reason that we do it in 3 intervals, why do we do it in 3 intervals? Because the people who live farther away can't come in time for the first interval. They can't, so therefore there's a second interval. Therefore, the people who live closer, they bring it earlier. You can do it. You can withdraw the funds 15 days before Pesach. People who live further away, then before Atzeres. and the people who live very far away, it's 15 days before Sukkot. Isn't that the reason that we do it at 3 different intervals? Therefore, we don't make the announcement earlier. Doesn't that show you that the announcement is made at the same time, and the people who live further away will bring it later, and we have a different time of withdrawing the funds at a later time to accommodate them? So l'chera, that shows you, not like you're saying, it shows you that we make the announcement at the same time for everybody, and the people who live further away will bring it later. Amrle Ramana said to Ravula, he said, no, Kula Ka'achasibo. He says, I understand it differently. He says that all the money should be brought and should be there by Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Why do they say that we withdraw the funds at 3 different times? Not that the money is brought later. The money has to be brought at the same time. It has to be brought by Rosh Chodesh Nisan. Why do they withdraw it at 3 different times? Why do they say to publicize it, to make a something that shows, it demonstrates the mitzvah, and to publicize the mitzvah? They do it at 3 separate times to show the people and to make the awareness and the chavivas of the mitzvah that now they're taking the funds, they're taking this money for the korbanos. But he holds that no, that it should all be brought by Rosh Chodesh Nisan, so therefore the announcement is a variable time where they make the achroza.